We farm on the Carneddau mountain range. My family's been on the same farm for 375 years. We run 4,000 head of ewes, 300 head of cattle, and I do a little bit of social media and sometimes cause a little bit of muck within the... spread some muck across the fields of politicians, anyway.
You're a muck-spreading farmer. There are a lot of issues. I mean, it seems to me that one of the things the conservation industry would like to do, and which is really important for a game fair, is to get rid of deer, to get rid of gamekeepers, and to get rid of sheep. And that means you. Is that how you see it? Are you under threat?
We're all under threat. Our way of life is under threat. And we need to fight back. We need to fight back as a people. When I walk around here today, I can see the support and the positivity. They're good people, but they're quiet people. You know, we have to remember these echo chambers are small and they're very, very loud. And we need to break into government. We need our voices to be heard. You know, we're harvesting our own food. We're keeping the balance. It's policies by government that are causing the problems. You know, TB is causing a massive problem within our industry, but that's the tip of the iceberg. As a boy, we had hedgehogs everywhere, ground nesting birds everywhere. Nobody listens to the people that are working the land, that have got hands in the soil, and if we need to get that message out there, we have to address the balance. And I don't want to kill every single badger, no do I heck. I want to get the balance. Overpopulation of anything is going to cause a problem, and if we don't look at it, if we don't look at it and start to share it, because I will tell you straight, every union and every person I talk to that have a voice are scared. They're scared to kill Mr. Badger. They're scared to talk about addressing the balance. I'm not, and I won't sit down, and I won't not be heard. And while I've got breath in my lungs, I will fight the fight for the people and for the countryside, working together to address that balance.
Thank you, Gareth. That is well deserved. What's happening to rural communities if, for example, they allow TB to go through them, if farmers start going bust? What would happen to your part of Wales?
Well, we're under TB restrictions, you know. I'll tell you straight, it's been an absolute nightmare. There's only one area that we bought a few years ago, 240 acres on the uplands, surrounded by a private forest, and the place is like the M1 for badgers. No word of lie. I said this to our vet, works in government, and I said, what can we do? Can you move and change your system, your farming system? No, I can't. I said, you know, we need to get these messages out there. I've got another friend down in Pembroke now that's losing 100 cows. He was on the phone as I was coming down to here today. They've just sent him another letter. There's another 26. He's losing 126 cows. You know, imagine that. And there's 20 or 30 of them going to be shot on farm. He's a father with young children, and they're going to have to be shot on that farm because they're heavily pregnant. This is what this country's pushing us through. You know, we have to fight for the right to protect our animals, our livelihoods, and our children's future. And I can't hear it coming from Welsh Government nor from the British Government, because we know the scientific evidence proving that culls work. Cull zones are working. They're not getting out there. The message is not getting out there. I'm talking to people working in that cull zone where the TB levels have gone down, hedgehogs are coming back, ground nesting birds are coming back. It's not rocket science. It's there in black and white. Governments and policy makers don't want to listen, because 84% of the people in this country live in cities, and all they want to do is walk into a supermarket and have food on the shelves that's affordable. They don't really care where it comes from, as long as they can get their hands on it. So we have to change that. We have to start to get them to understand they're going to need a farmer or a fisherman every single day if they want to eat, because that is the reality.
All right, yeah. We have about 50% of the food in our shops comes from the UK, and about 50% is imported. the food security story, the food security message is something that happened in the 1950s, and people are still talking about it now. But if you talk to people in government, they'll go, well, why don't we just get it from South America like everybody else? So can you make the case, because we can get it from South America and we can get it very cheaply. So can you make the case for why it is important for Britain, for the UK, to grow food here?
Okay, let's look at what we've got here. Rain, grass. That can be turned into top quality protein, okay? And milk from what? Ruminants. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Or should we cut the forest in the Amazon so we can grow soya, and we can then ship it all the way across the country? And not just soya, they're cutting down the Amazon to put beef cattle into these, into these big feedlots. We have got a temperate climate in this country. We can produce food from grass, but we have to be sensible about it. Regenerative agriculture is the answer. We have to be more seasonal about what we're eating. We have to look back at what our forefathers did. And this is very, very important. 1/3 of the food we produce in this country goes to landfill. And we've got hundreds of thousands of people in food banks queuing up. You tell me, is that fair? No, it's not fair. We have to go back to what we used to do. Let's produce the food, have a fair price for it, and make sure that people are backing British agriculture. Build a better Britain on our bellies. We need a farming food revolution. And it starts with the farmer, but the farmer is nothing without the consumer, without the customer. These are the important people. And we've stuck our head in the sand for too long. And it's time we stood up and fought for what we believe in, and get the message out there and get the public buying British back again.
Okay, I can't not agree with that. It's a tough sell, though. You're going to have to ask the British consumer to pay more money for food, I guess. Is that right? Is there a way around that?
Look, it's a tough sell on everything, but I think if we're going to go forward in a way that we are going to feed this country sustainably, affordably, we have to work together. And it's not going to be an overnight fix. We have to look at ways where we can diversify, where we can change what we're eating, adding value to the product. Because, cheap food comes at a cost. Cheap food comes at a cost to the environment. Cheap food comes at a cost to the animals. And cheap food comes at a cost to the farmers. One of the biggest suicide rates in any industry is farming. And mental health is a massive issue. And we are pushed by supermarket prices. We are pushed by mainstream media. You watch any programme, news, anything on mainstream media, they're blaming the farmer. It's cow farts that are causing climate disaster. While I sit taking my sheep onto the heft in the morning, and over me are 40 and 50 planes passing every 30 and 40 minutes. 1 a minute. And it's them poor sheep and cows that are causing the problem. Come on. We've got to bring ourselves into reality and start to push back.
All right, but we are attacked and we're ignored, and there doesn't seem to be anybody picking this up and saying, yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, this idea that, cows cause global warming, how can we let that slip through our fingers?
Do you know what? I disagree. I disagree because every time I walk around places like this, people come up and say, you're doing a good job. We are in this together. The majority of people are quiet. They're just getting on with their lives. They want to pay their mortgage. They want to buy food. They want a nice little holiday. They're just carrying on with their lives, and they are supportive. It's about 3% of the country that are vegan and they're not, eating meat. But we all have a role to play. Every single one of us, if we waste less food, if we're buying British, if we're backing the people on our doorstep, we can all do it together.
Okay, we can attack and ignore them. Who thinks Gareth ought to stand for Parliament?
Yes!
Right.
Bloody hell, that'd be a disaster.
It'd be funny, though. It'd be very funny. Can I throw this out to people here? Can I ask? Yes, okay, look. I want countryside issues to put to him. Is anybody putting up their hand with a countryside issue that they can... Yes, we've got one over here. let me bring the microphone over to you. What I'd like you to do is tell me what the problem is, and Gareth, I want you to put that into Gareth.
The problem I feel is overproduction of milk by these large milk herds, the excretion that comes from the beasts, which I know we need the meat, I know we need the milk, go into the river, and that's killing a lot of the entomology. We have problems with the salmon runs, and that certainly needs to be looked at and overcome in the near future, I think.
Listen, I totally agree with you, but it's cheap food that comes at a cost, and that's one of the cheap foods. Supermarkets were pushing milk, push, 2 for the price of 1. You know, they were selling milk for cheaper than water. Now, something's got to give. People cut corners, and this is where we need to address it. And we can look at every single one of us here. Everything that goes in comes out. And the big water companies have got a big role to play as well. We need to clean up our rivers. I've spoken with Paul Whitehouse earlier about this. And do you know what? Let's do it. But people will have to pay a little bit more for their milk, or it's not going to happen. Every single farm has bills to pay. And if they're pushed into a corner, they'll cut corners. So let's work together to find solutions.
I mean, I feel that there should be an environmental tax on the milk of a certain amount of money, and that can go to the farmer. He wants to be monitored, make sure he's spending it properly towards this issue.
Well,
we're all prepared to pay a bit more for the milk, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've got a single farm payment, and I don't think what government has been doing with it is the right thing. And we need to look at policies that protect our habitats, our animals, and making food affordable as well.
Dieter Helm, who has been advising DEFRA on a future plan for farming, wrote a book where he pointed out that farming makes a net zero contribution to the British economy, that if you take out subsidy, take out river pollution, take out tax breaks like diesel and inheritance tax and things like that, you are putting nothing into the economy. And therefore, because he's an economist and he lives in a city, he says, you should go. We don't need you.
Well, I say he should go because I'm feeding that bugger every day. He can't see the worth of the food that's on his plate. That's the difference. And I'll tell you something, the day this country goes hungry is the day they'll respect the farming and the countryside people. And that day will be the day that it's gone too late.
Thank you, Gareth. That was exactly what I wanted. I wanted an issue that Gareth could put into Gareth. Has anybody got another one, please? Here we are. Hand at the back.
Here comes trouble.
Anybody leaning on a stick can't be good news.
My son's a dairy farmer. He gets 27 pence a litre. What do you think about that?
Absolutely disgusting. And they're dropping the price on a weekly basis. I was talking to a farmer last week, a really good friend of mine, 35 years in the industry. He's going out this year. He's had enough. He can't take it. The volatility in this industry is unbelievable. Nobody can believe the pressure some of these people are. And they've invested millions, let me tell you. You'd know, they've invested millions, you know, making sure that there's a future for their children. And then these big processors and supermarkets say, do you know what? Let's take another 2p off. Let's take another 5. And where can you go with your milk? You can't go anywhere with your milk. They're fighting for contracts. It's a nightmare. And really, I don't know where the solution is for that. But where we're going is we are sleepwalking into food shortages. And the sooner it happens, the better, in my opinion. People will have then a sense of, oh my God, what have we lost? And yeah, you can import your food to a certain point. Look what happens out in the Ukraine. Everybody scrabbles, there's a bit of a war, and there's no grain coming into Europe from the bread basket. We need food security. We need to protect people like your son. And if we don't give them a fair price, they'll be out of business and there won't be food in people's fridges and on people's plates.
Anybody else got their hand up? Somebody else got... Yes, here we go. Here we are.
I'm a fellow hill farmer. I heard at the Welsh show last week that we're going to turn into forests. What do you think of that?
I'm so glad there's children here. And my wife standing in the back. I'm under curfew never to swear on social media or in public again, which I'm finding very frustrating. It's an absolute insult, okay? So 10% of our farms, every single farm in Wales, will have to be planted. 10%. Doesn't matter how productive it is, and doesn't matter where it is. 10%. That is the new policy. It's not set in stone yet, because I absconded our minister, and she's going to come up and chat with me, and hopefully we can talk a little bit of sense. But we have to be realistic about this. I like trees. I planted 40 trees last year. Every single one of them was a fruit tree, and they will feed my children's children. I'm not here for the short term. My father taught me something from a very young age. We're only custodians of this land. We take nothing with us. But what he always said to me was, try and leave the land in a better state than it's given to you. You imagine if we could do that as a society in everything we do, that we can give something back. And I don't see policymakers and government giving anything back. They're just taking. They're not listening to the people that are working the land. And you know, as a hill farmer, it's not easy making a living up there. I've had to diversify into having Americans, into going onto television, into doing social media. And it's been difficult. You know, I didn't just fall out of the sky and land on this stage. I've had to work really hard to get here. But I've been supported by people like you across this country, across the world now. Nearly 1 million people are following me on my social media channels. And it's given us the power to get that message across. So let's never give up. Let's not give in to the rewilders, because they're wrong. They're wrong. And we have to work together to make sure that we protect our land to produce food and watch after the environment and the wildlife that's in it.
Quick round of applause for that, please. Your First Minister, Mark Drakeford, told the BBC last week that he was puzzled by your attitude, that he's puzzled that you can't turn 10% of your trees over to forestry, to woodland. You can't turn another 10% over to a desiccated landscape, whatever it is he wants. What's your reaction to Mark Drakeford?
I think this gentleman's right. He's puzzled by everything. He's out of his depth. Look, when you're in an inner city community and everything's there for you, and you don't need to get, into the countryside and understand it, that's where they are, and they know the majority of their votes comes from that inner city, so they're not bothered. We're a small voice. I tend not to comment on what he says, because it's really irrelevant. Even that he's the leader of, the ruling party in Wales, the more I listen to him, the more it annoys me, and it helps me with my non-swearing days. It really does. Honest to God, it is so frustrating when some of these people are pushing, the message out there. I've got to say one thing about Lesley Griffiths. She gave me an opportunity to talk with her openly, and she's willing to come up. So let's not close the door. There's some people in government that are willing to listen and to come in. And however we see it, not every single farm's the same. Every single farm is different. So when they blanket these 10% trees, it's a silly rule. It's a silly rule. If some people want to plant some trees or want to do some environmental work, yeah, give them the money for it. But a lot of people in the Royal Welsh are thinking of pulling out and not taking any subsidy and just carrying on with farming. And that's where we'll get to a place where you might run into problems. Seriously intensive farming, like some of the places in New Zealand, where we lose a lot of our young folk from the family farms, where they'll filter out into cities and they never come back. These people are born and bred in their area. There's a word for it in Welsh. It's called cnefin, hefting. It's a sense of belonging. Once you lose that sense of belonging, for me, it's the language, it's the people, it's the cymdeithas, the society. We have to protect it. And Wales should be protecting it. Wales should be forward-thinking with agriculture, because it's kept the Welsh language. It's kept the young people in farming, in the countryside. And if they can't see that, well, they should be long gone out of policies and out of government.
You've got a minister who is prepared to be sympathetic to farming. In shooting, particularly in Wales, we have an entire government ranged against us who has said they want to close down shooting in Wales. They want to end shooting. They want to socially engineer that spirit out of us. Now, I know we cover both sides here, don't we?
Yeah.
What can we do about that? How can we change their minds? I mean, is it just voting them out, or is there anything else we could do? Can we sell shooting to people like this?
Listen, we have to sell it, and we have to change maybe the persona and be more sexy, more clever about how we do it.
Gareth, more sexy. That's good, yeah.
I thought I'm doing all right. It's about selling. So, they talk about it as a sport. Now, if I'm talking about me going shooting on our little syndicate shoot, there's only a few of us. We pay a few quid in, we put a few pheasants down. Every single bird comes home with every single one of us. Everyone's utilised. I've got a freezer full of them now. And that's what it's about. It's about harvesting our food. Let's get the message out there that we're harvesting the food. It's not a sport. I love shooting more than anybody. I love being out there. But as well, it protects my crops. If I'm not shooting them little grey squirrels, which we'll be feeding everybody in the Welsh Game Fair, if you want to come, squirrel burgers, it's in the Telegraph today. So I'm going to be switching all my social media channels on the way home. I think I'm in for a bit of a vegan bash again. But
Good.
But let's get the message out there, that we can do this. We can do this together by working together and selling the story of shooting, fishing, hunting, that it's good for the environment. When you're standing on that peg, I do a little video. First flush out, it won't be a pheasant, it'll be hundreds of songbirds. Hundreds of songbirds. If you haven't stood on that peg and seen that, you don't understand what shooting's about. I've been on big shoots, 300-400 day birds. Yeah, enjoyed it, but it's not quite the same as our little shoot where there's a camaraderie that we go and we shoot 80 birds and somebody's hit a hell of a high bird, and then that's all the talk you'll get in the pub. There's one guy, if he shot a high bird, that's it for the season, then he just keeps going back to the same bird and the same bird. I suppose every shoot's got one of them, but it is, we struggle sometimes with getting together, but that brings us together every 2 weeks, all the same people, and there's plumbers, there's electricians, there's joiners. We're not just farmers and shooters, we're just country people that enjoy harvesting our food. That's the story we need to be selling.
We're also voters. We're voters as well as farmers and plumbers and shooters and electricians, and there doesn't seem to be anybody we can vote for in Wales. And I mean, here in the UK, we were going to have Therese Coffey on the stage. She can't come. It feels like DEFRA is a department for losing the rural vote. Can we trust the Labour Party on this? Do we care about the Lib Dems? But we don't have anybody to vote for here. Should we be looking at another way of approaching this? Should we be putting up candidates? Should we be getting involved in the political process that way?
Well, do you know what I really love? Is what's happened in the Netherlands. They have been able to turn a political party in 2 years and get them into a majority vote. That's what I call the power of the people. It can be done, if people are willing to put their heads above the parapet and work together, because we need a voice. We need a voice. I believe everybody down in Westminster are useless, and the same in the... Well, not everybody, but there's people that are fighting our cause, but I don't seem to see them coming through anywhere within the mainstream media, or they don't get any, real publicity. So we need to get behind them, but maybe we should think of shaking up the political system and do what they did in Holland and get these people, these vocal people, these people that are willing to stick their head above the parapet, come together, start to write policies. Because if we get the people that are working the land to put policies together, let's get people that are teaching our children to put policies into schools. Let's get doctors and surgeons to put policies into hospitals. Everything seems to be administration. Our Betsy Cadwallader lost millions of pounds. Nobody could find it. They couldn't see where it went. All gone into administration. All smokes and mirrors. Everything's paperwork. Let's bring it back to basic. Let's get the old matrons back in hospital. Let's get the old gamekeepers back on the land. Let's get the old farmers looking back at what we did before to go forward. That would be a great answer to a lot of people, I'm sure.
You're talking about the BBB, which is the Netherlands farming party, and it has done amazingly well, and from a standing start in 2 years. Our experience in the UK, the SNP was originally in Scotland a rural party. It was a party that came out of the land. Doesn't appear to be ending well at the moment. Is there just something we can do to frighten them, just to gain their attention? Because this idea of being ignored or being attacked as the only two settings for government is not working for us. Can we do a bit of political terrorism without guns?
Political theatre, maybe, you know.
Okay.
Maybe I should put a social media post as I'm running for president.
Yes.
I won't be in this country.
All right, have we got any more questions we can put to Gareth? We got one more question over here.
How do we change the narrative in terms of not just the shooting world? I mean, I'm from Kent, and Roger Gale was my MP. And if you don't know anything about him, go look at Blood Oranges. But we're not in fashion. You know what I mean? Like, veganism is in fashion, right? You know, vegetarianism is in fashion. Now, we know as country folk basically that what we're doing is right. So how do we change the narrative? What can we do to change the narrative, basically? Because I had a woman stop me about 2 weeks ago, and I was shooting rabbits, and it was the old. She goes, "Are you shooting rabbits?" "Yes." "Can I have two?" Do you know what I mean? And I thought that she was about to, you know. And everyone that I speak to about what I do, because I'm quite happy basically to tell them, they agree with me and they're happy with it, you know. And they either want some venison or they want some rabbit. So everyone likes it, but it's not popular to like it. So how do we change the narrative?
I think we make it sexy again and start to get that message, because you've just done it. You've absolutely just done it. What you've done there is education is key. Okay, and I think we need to be taking it back to schools as well. We need to be going into schools, and schools should be coming onto farm to understand the different ways food's produced, because we've got a vast array of food that's produced. So if you're vegetarian, vegan, I will tell you something will have to die for everything to be on your plate. And when a vegan comes up to me and says, "Oh, this and that," well, I'll tell you, that cow will feed a heck of a lot of families. But every field of carrots, maize, whatever you're growing, will have a devastating effect on the ecosystems. Fact, more things will die for a vegan or vegetarian diet. You know, so putting that into context is put it into the school curriculums. You know, teaching children, get gamekeepers, Basque, these guys, whoever we can to go forward. I've been into a lot of schools. You know, I was the farmer dude on CBBC for a bit, till I started to be too much of a farmer dude.
Till you started swearing?
No, I wasn't swearing, but when you get controversial and don't toe the line, sometimes people don't like it, so you have to look for your own direction, and that's what I did. But yeah, keep banging your drum about shooting rabbits. Keep making sure people understand that every single thing we eat, something will die. And there is need for a farming food revolution in this country, and we can build a better Britain on our bellies, but we have to get into the schools, we have to educate them, and going forward, we can do this together, 100%.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gareth Wyn Jones.